What is going on? Welcome to ednews.com. I'm your host, EJ Carrion, and today we have an exciting interview with Dr. Katie Martin. She's the Chief Innovation Officer at Learner Centered Collaborative and has a new book that just came out last month called Evolving Education, Shifting to a Learner-Centered Paradigm. Let's welcome Dr. Martin to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's so good to have you. I would love this to start off by what was it like writing the book, and what should people expect kind of to get from the new book?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own process. I still can't even imagine calling myself an author, even though it's my second book. I would get up every morning at 5 o'clock before anyone else in my family would get up and just make myself write and reflect on all the things I was learning. And it's a really validating, but also scary, vulnerable process to have your book come out into the world and wait to see what people think. My hope, what people will get out of it when they read it, is that they see a mom, an educator, someone who cares a lot about what's possible in our classrooms, and those stories and research and examples of what's possible and what's happening as many educators evolve their practice based on the needs of who they serve and the context in which we live.
Awesome. So what is the most common advice you're giving right now to school districts and leaders? Like your book coming out, the world's evolving. People are defining what school means to them. Yeah. What does it mean to support kids? So what is your most common advice?
Great question. I think my most common advice is that we really need to look to learners and think about the outcomes we actually want. For so long, we've been so narrowly focused on math and reading scores and things that don't necessarily align with the whole child outcomes and what we really want for students. So my first advice is really think about what it is that we want for our students every day and what kind of kids we want when we're graduating and they're going out into the world. Second advice that you didn't ask, but second to that, I would say is thinking about those learning experience. There's a lot of concern about learning loss and how far behind kids are. And the more we see schools that have not had that challenge, they're actually creating experiences that are more authentic, more personalized, and meeting kids where they are instead of worrying about catching them up for all the things that they lost.
Yeah. So if you could give, I know we got the book on Amazon. It's out. Yeah. Get the book. It'll be in the description. What is something that, who's the book for? And if you could open up, a secret passage to some insights, what would you kind of give the listeners?
The book is for educators, any person in the classroom, any person leading classrooms. And each chapter is really based on a concrete shift from a school-centered paradigm. So, one being that education has to be standardized, to shifting to meet the needs of each individual learner. And so an example would be, I love to start with learner profiles. So I have examples, I have strategies and key ideas to put into practice. But, the first one is, how can you understand each kid, get to know what they love, get to know what they're passionate about, when they feel successful, what their goals are, starting from that. And, those types of strategies can help us really create more learner-centered experiences.
Yeah. Now, because I know your first book was about learner-centered, yeah. and I love the kind of quote, if we're going to change how students learn, we got to change how teachers learn as well. So can you kind of define learner-centered?
Yeah. So learner-centered, I always say it starts with knowing who learners are. And we talk a lot about different practices, but learner-centered is really understanding. Education Reimagined says it best, that if we see learners for wondrous, curious individuals, not vessels to be filled, but each individual has passions and interests and talents. And if we connect to those, then we can help everyone thrive and become who they want to be. And so learner-centered is really creating schools for the individual, not making them fit into an outdated model of school.
Yeah, and I guess what is something that you would like to see more of? Because that's a lot of flexibility, and we've been thrown into the deep end with flexibility. But we're in that phase where we're deciding as administrators and leaders to go
Mhm.
back to what we know and get kids back in the classroom and get our attendance up to man, we experienced this thing that I don't maybe want to experience again. So what would you say is like something you would like to see from districts to make more individualization happen, um, as it doesn't seem like a pandemic or this kind of situation is going to go away and is going to be a part of our learners' lives going forward?
Yeah, I think schools and districts that are really starting to create these amazing experiences for kids are allowing for more flexibility for young people all the way, to navigate their path, to set goals, to be able to find resources. There's a lot of opportunity to connect with community members, internships, doing and solving real world problems. And when we create those opportunities for kids, we are learning skills. We are learning the foundational skills of reading, writing, computation, all these things that are really, really important, but putting it in the context that matters for young people. My son always says, I don't want to do trash can work. I don't want to do
Mm-hmm.
work that's just going to get thrown away. It's so much better to do things that people see and experience. And, he was 9 when he was telling me this. And so many of our students understand that they want to do things that matter. They see challenges that exist in the world. And so being able to connect them to those things and learn from experts around the world, not just from the teacher, can really create that meaning for them, and really create that motivation. The biggest thing I hear is kids aren't motivated. They don't want to do the work. But when people are motivated, adults and young people, because things matter and they're solving problems, we see a different type of interest and different level of engagement that we see when we're just completing worksheets.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess so. It's so interesting, and I know in like you're working. I know there's a lot of speaking and assessments and consulting and going into public districts, which is really hard right now. I feel right. It's battles between you have homeschooling at an all time high. You
Right.
have kind of the politics around mask. You have all that going on. Um, what is like? Do you see optimism and like our education system? Um, like what's the optimism to hold on to, like helping our public education system thrive, as now they're not just competing with charter schools and private schools and all these other versions of school. We've really democratized the power where any parent can create their own school. Any kid can say, we can do this better. And you're seeing black and brown families choosing more to homeschool. So it's coming from all spheres, the competition to do learning better. Um, what is your guide, I guess, for like helping public education thrive, when 10 years from now and still be relevant and strong?
Yeah, I mean, I am an eternal optimist, positivity, and I believe strongly in our public system. However, exactly what you said, people have so many more options now. They can create and curate these learning experiences for their children. They can allow them flexibility based on their needs. And so I think it is it's important for our public schools to realize this, that we don't need to continue doing what we've always done. We have an opportunity and resources to be able to create a new and better model that allows for that flexibility. So, imagine a kid who's part of a public system who can do school online because that's what fits them best. They can work in internships. They can, work in small groups and communities and have their learning plan, and they might do some online and they might do some in person. But there is an opportunity for schools to really be the hubs and create this ecosystem rather than school 8 hours a day and then you come home. I think we've learned that there's an opportunity for like flexibility, and people are actually demanding it. And so I'm encouraged by school districts and systems that are starting to think of new options, that are being more creative and leaning into the pandemic as an opportunity to do something different and really evolve. But I'm fearful for those who are just, moving one step at a time and not looking forward to what our kids need, trying to just get back to normal. And we know that the normal was not serving everyone to begin with. And so we really should be not desiring to go back to normal. We should really be thinking about what's the new normal we want to create.
Yeah, yeah. And earlier I tried to bring up your book here, and I know it's on Amazon, Evolving Education, Shifting to a Learner-Centered Paradigm. Is there any other place or information you would like the audience to know?
Well, much of the book started from my blog. I try and blog weekly as I'm out in classrooms and connecting with educators. So continuing to share that at katielmartin.com. You can find resources and blogs there. And Amazon, or contact me if you want bulk orders. There's also a study guide or a conversation guide that I think is really helpful as you go through the book, to talk about what's working, what's challenging, and really what's possible. Books and all of that, and all learning is always better together. So I always try to create things that people can come together in community and discuss.
Well, Dr. Martin, thank you so much for being on ednews.com and connecting with us and sharing your new book and insights on how to adapt to this new world. Hopefully it's a valuable resource to everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.